Hello and welcome to this Kotlin Basics for Android tutorial. This series of tutorials is aimed at the newbie or the starter who's new to coding and also new to Android app development. So focusing on the Kotlin programming language here, and unlike the Android development series, which I also do, we'll be looking at more of the logical aspects of the Kotlin language. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is look at the when else statements. So the when statement can be used to effectively select a multiple choice, and if none of those choices are relevant, then we can use the else as a kind of a default or catch-all. So it's analogous to the switch case statements that is available in Java. So it's just going to be a very simple tutorial. We'll just create an app, and what we'll do, we'll just put 5 buttons into the activity, and when we select choice 1, choice 2 or choice 3 through the buttons, we'll just display that in the text view, and we won't put options in for the button 4 and button 5. They'll be dealt with the catch-all. So it's just a very simple tutorial just to illustrate how the when else statement works in Kotlin. So just before we get onto the programming, also if you do find this tutorial useful, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because there'll be plenty more of this type of tutorial in the very near future. Anyway, let's get straight on. We'll start a new Android project, and I'm just going to call this Kotlin when. Okay, and you can see it's just make sure that we've got the include Kotlin support here, just to make sure that we're programming in there. So there are obviously a prerequisite here that you have Android Studio installed. You'll also need to understand constraint layouts and also how to run the emulator. If you haven't done any of those things, I do have tutorials looking at those aspects, and I've put the links to those tutorials in the description for this particular tutorial. So just look those up if you need to, but let's just get straight on now. So let's just keep it at a minimum of Lollipop. I am compiling against Android 8, which is Oreo, so let's just proceed. I'm just going to put an empty activity here because I don't want any clutter with the code. Just keep it really simple and clean, so make sure that's selected, and just keep these default main activity and the layout will be called activity main, and we'll just let that build. Okay, that's built. So let's just get our layout constructed. So let's just select the layout. Okay, so let's just get rid of this hello world text view. I'm just going to make sure the auto connect constraints are off, which they are, because I want to put the constraints in manual for this layout. So we want a text view at the top roughly, and I'm just going to put some buttons in here. I just want the 5 buttons, so we can just change the IDs for these buttons. Just call this BT button 1. Actually, no, let's just call it choice 1. And I'm just going to change the text here and just make that choice 1. Similar thing to the button here, BT for button, and it's choice 2, and we'll make this text choice 2, and we'll just keep doing this. Okay, so that's the buttons taken care of, just the text view as well. Just got that text view choice. Don't really need to change the default text. We'll put the new text there when we select the actual choice. So all that's going to happen is if I press choice 1, it'll just display choice 1 here. If we press choice 2, that'll be choice 2, choice 3 for choice 3, and choice 4 or choice 5 will be indicated as well in a slightly different way, because that'll become apparent when we do the actual when itself. Let's get some constraints in. So first of all, just want to constrain this to the bottom. I think I'll just increase the margin, the default margins there, to 16 dp, and just constrain that to the button below and to the sides there. Same here, to the sides. Let's just move that up a little bit so we've got a bit of room, and constrain to the button below it and to the sides. Same with here. And with the text view at the top here, let's just constrain that to the top and to the sides as well. Oh. Excellent. So that's the layout completed. Let's get straight on with the Kotlin programming. So what I want to do first of all is I'm going to just create some immutable values. Those are constants in Kotlin for the buttons. So we're actually going to use the find view by ID function to associate the value to the ID of the view in the layout. There'll be 5 of those. I'm using this technique really because I'm going to set an on-click listener to each button, and I actually want to use a callback method this time rather than set up an on-click listener and put the code in place. We really just want to, every time a button is pressed, just call the function on click, and then it will just go through, and that's obviously where the when statement is going to reside, and that'll become clear later on when we actually get the code in. So first of all, I'm just going to get some of these values in, and they can go inside the onCreate function. So it'll just be val, and I'll make a choice 1, and we're going to do a find view by ID, and we need to cast this as a button, and we just need to put the ID of the corresponding button in the layout. So it'll be r.id, and it'd be bt for button, and it's choice 1. Okay, so just do an alt enter to get that in place. So we're going to do this for each of the buttons, so I'm just going to use just cut and paste here just to speed things up a little bit. Okay, so that's the immutable values for each of the buttons. So I actually want to set an on-click listener to each of those buttons now. So it's just really I'm going to call this set on-click listener function against each button. So it's quite simply choice 1, and it's set on-click listener. So I just want on-click listener, and we need to call a context here, and it's just going to be this. And you'll see there's an error here. Let's not worry about that. We'll just sort that out in a minute. Let's just make sure we've got each of the 5 buttons set with an on-click listener. Okay, so that's the on-click listener set. So we're getting an error here because we're going to really get the activity. It's going to have to implement the method, or the function, sorry. Method's a Java terminology, so let's just make sure we call it a function. Really, in terms of onCreate, we're actually finished, so we've just got to work on the onClick function. So what we need to do is say let main activity implement interface view onClick listener. So you can see it's got this dialog box up, and this is the callback function we want to use, which is on click. So just say OK here, and you can see it's just got the code in place ready for us to complete. So we've got a to do here. We can take that out really, because we're going to do it. It's not to do now, it's going to be completed. So now we're getting on to the when statement. So what we're looking for is a case of when we click the button, we're looking for the ID of that button. So that's going to be 3 scenarios. It'll be button 1, button 2, button 3, and all we're going to do is actually change the text in the text view. If it's button 4 or 5, that'll be dealt with by an else. So we need a condition, and we're looking for the ID of the view. So we can type when, and we just put the condition in. So it's view ID, and all we need to do is open a bracket, and you'll see it has a small error here. So we're actually going to use the double exclamation mark here. So we could surround it with null check, but it's a little bit untidy. So we're going to use the non-null assertion, so it assumes that v is not going to be null. So let's just put that in there. So you can see it's got this double exclamation mark, so that just gets rid of that error. So the v here is effectively the view. Obviously buttons are views, text views are views, anything that's in the layout, what we can add text to or click on is a view. So so we're looking for the view and the ID. So let's put the first scenario in. So the first scenario would be if we click on button 1. So the ID of button 1 is choice button choice 1. So that's our first scenario, and the code we're going to execute is following this arrow here. And all we're going to do is set the text view, and it'd be choice dot text, and then we just put an equal sign, then we just set the text, which is you chose 1, and that's all we need to do. You chose 1. You can see here it's just wanting us to import the references from the layout. So let's just do that and see what it adds in. Whereas in Java you would need to create a variable and then associate that variable with the ID in the layout using the find view by ID. For the actual text view, we don't need to do that. We can actually import the IDs directly in using this notation here. So I'll just zoom in onto that just to give you a closer look. So Android Studio has added that in, so we can actually just reference the ID of the text view directly using TV choice. Okay, so let's just carry on with the code. And so we just want really choices for button 2 and button 3. So I can just copy this here, and this will be what's happening for choice 2. And all we need to do is say you chose 2. And what we're doing here is for choice 3. We could say you chose 3. So that is the 3 cases taken care of. What we would want to do now is just look at a default, the catch-all scenario. So if there's no choice 1, 2 and 3, then we need to just put something in for choice 4 and 5. So we can actually just type else here. We've got a little forward arrow again, and we'll just change the text to let's make it equal to so you chose 4 or 5. So yep, all I need to do is change the text there, so that's freed that up. So there's one other thing we need to do. Just make sure we take this out. It will cause the app to crash. What I'll do now, we'll just have a quick review. I'll just zoom in so you can see the code a little bit closer. All I've really done is first of all we obviously created the layout, and then I created these immutable values which are constants for each of the 5 buttons, and we use the find view by ID function to make sure we associate each button ID to choice 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. For each of those buttons then we need to set an on-click listener, and this kind of structure of representing the code then forces us to use a callback function, which is added by Android Studio, and it's on click. So every time we hit one of these buttons, this is called. What we need to do is look at the ID of the view, and if it's choice 1, then we alter the text to you chose 1. Likewise for choice 2 and 3, and then we use the catch-all, which is the else, for choice 4 and 5, and that's all there is to it. That's the when statement. Very straightforward, and all we need to do is just give this a quick test on the emulator. Okay, so we've got the app loaded. It's called Kotlin When. So we've still got the default text view there, so let's just choose one, and you click on there, you've got choice 1 and choice 2, 3, and that's 4 or 5, and the same with button 5, that's 4 or 5. So there we are. So really that's all it is to it. It's a very simple tutorial just to illustrate the when statement in Kotlin. I want to try and keep these entry-level tutorials really simple. So I hope you found it useful. Catch you in the next let. Goodbye for now. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you find this tutorial useful. All the project files and source code are available for download on my website. Thank you.